Hello, good afternoon. The Ukrainian government says recapturing the city of Kherson means victory in the war against Russia is only a matter of time. Ukraine regained control of the southern city after officials in Moscow said some 30,000 Russian troops were pulled out of the region on Friday. Sources close to the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky have warned, though, that the Kremlin's forces are making new fortifications on the left bank side of the Dnipro River. Fears have also been expressed after satellite images showed significant new damage to a dam close by. Our correspondent Catherine Bayro-Hanga sent us this report from the capital, Kyiv.
Jubilation and tears of happiness in Kherson as Ukrainian special forces enter the city. People here have lived under Russian occupation for more than 8 months, but the fight is far from over. Retreating Russian forces still pose a big threat from across the Dnipro River.
We have been warned yesterday by our general staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces that Russians are making new fortifications on the left bank side of the Dnieper River, and there is a likelihood of massive artillery shelling from that side onto Kherson. At the moment, we are quietly optimistic, but of course we understand that there are future battles which we will have to win.
The damage caused as the Russians withdrew is becoming clearer. They blew up the Antonivsky Bridge, the key route over the Dnipro River. And now, new satellite images show damage to the crucial Kakhovka Dam north of Kherson. If it collapses, it could flood over 80 settlements, including Kherson. The government has warned residents not to return to the city just yet because of landmines and unexploded munitions in the area. On the global stage, Ukraine is savouring its victory in Kherson, but it warns it needs continued international support as it heads into a difficult winter with an increased threat of retaliatory attacks.
Violation of borders, use of force, committing mass atrocities against civilian population. If anyone in the world sees that Russia can get away easily with all of this, then this someone will be tempted to follow the suit.
Winning back Kherson has boosted national morale, but a complete victory over Russia remains elusive.
Well, Catherine joins us now from Kyiv. Catherine, what are you hearing about conditions inside the city now?
Yes, when Kherson was under Russian occupation, it was pretty much cut off from the rest of Ukraine. So now there's a process of reintegrating it back into Ukraine. And that means bringing back basic services. Even the phone and internet lines had been cut off. So those are going to be reinstated. And also you have to bring back people like policemen, doctors, nurses. So that process is underway. But remember, whilst Kherson was under Russian occupation, it was shielded from the massive bombardment and missile strikes that much of Ukraine has been experiencing. And now with the Russians on the eastern side, there's a prospect that the people in Kherson will have to shelter and be protected from airstrikes.
Catherine Bayro-Hanga, thank you very much. Now, the MP Matt Hancock became emotional as he told his I'm a Celebrity campmates that he's looking for the public to forgive him. The former Health Secretary for England was grilled by fellow contestants on last night's show about breaching social distancing rules during the pandemic, the event which led to his resignation from Boris Johnson's cabinet.
What I'm really looking for is a bit of forgiveness. That's what I'm really looking for.
Hey, oh my God, I nearly cried then.
Our political correspondent Jonathan Blake joins us. How did Matt Hancock defend himself, Jonathan?
He said it was a mistake to have broken the guidance that he had set, but it had happened, he said, because he had fallen in love with someone. As you heard there, he asked later for forgiveness. He was challenged by the ITV presenter Charlene White, also in the camp, saying that his apology wouldn't cut it for families like hers who had lost a loved one during the pandemic and followed the guidance closely. He said that that was one of the reasons he regretted what he had done so much. Now, Matt Hancock has been accused of cashing in what's described as a terrible legacy by the COVID-bereaved Families for Justice group. Asked about his handling of the pandemic as a whole, he said he would defend that far more robustly and that the problems were caused not by people trying to respond to the virus, but by coronavirus itself.
Jonathan Blake, thank you very much. A petition launched against the proposed relaxation of rules on the ratio of staff to children in childcare settings will now be considered for debate in Parliament. The government said it was considering changing the rules in England to reduce costs for parents and give nurseries greater flexibility. Ellie Price reports.
Cheeky, funny, a little terror at times, but not too much. He was just a perfect baby in the sense that he only cried when he really wanted something.
Oliver Steeper was 9 months old when his mum Zoe got a call from the nursery to come straight away.
I remember thinking at the time, well, they wouldn't have sounded so vague if something bad had happened. So I kind of got myself down there. That's when I knew that it was bad because there were 2 ambulances there. So I thought, this isn't good.
Oliver had choked. He never regained consciousness and died a few days later in hospital. What happened that day at Oliver's nursery is yet to be established. A police investigation is ongoing. But his death has turned his parents into campaigners. Their petition is against proposals to increase the number of 2-year-olds and over a member of staff can look after in a childcare setting. While there are no plans to change the ratios for the under-2s, as Oliver was, they feel once one age group is changed, all could be.
We've gone through such a traumatic experience. We can only sit there and think that if they do change the ratio, it makes it more unsafe than it is already. And another set of parents potentially have to go through this nightmare what we've gone through. And we just couldn't sit there and feel comfortable with that. And we had to start the petition.
It received 100,000 signatures, the point at which Parliament will consider a debate on the first anniversary of Ollie's death in September.
The wheels on the bus go round and round.
At the moment, for every 4 2-year-olds in a childcare setting in England, there needs to be 1 member of staff. The government is looking to increase that, as it is in Scotland, to 1 adult in every 5 children.
We need key persons for children. That's the very fundamental part of our job, is to make sure that their social and emotional needs are being met. Once a child is happy and the environment is right, then they will learn. If you haven't got the staff there to even begin those conversations, that communication and interaction, then that opportunity is missed.
According to the Early Years Alliance, a recent survey suggested around 90% of childcare settings were against the changes. Only 2% said it would lower fees for parents. The government says no decisions have been made, and it's looking at ways to improve the availability and affordability of childcare. And the welfare and safety of children remains a priority. Ellie Price, BBC News, New Romney.
Look now at some of the day's other stories. And 3 days after Americans voted in the midterm elections, it's thought Democrat Mark Kelly has beaten Republican challenger Blake Masters for the Senate seat in Arizona. This means US President Joe Biden's Democrats are a step closer to keeping control of the Senate. They need just 1 more seat to have a majority. Votes are still being counted in Nevada. Georgia is expected to hold a runoff election. A holiday cruise ship carrying about 800 passengers with COVID-19 has docked in Sydney, Australia. About 4,600 passengers and crew were aboard the Majestic Princess, which had sailed from New Zealand, meaning around 1 in 5 had COVID. Those testing positive are being taken off the ship to accommodation to complete isolation. Now, the renowned graffiti artist Banksy has unveiled his latest work, on a destroyed building in a Ukrainian city. Banksy posted a picture of the artwork, a gymnast doing a handstand, on Instagram. The city was one of the places hardest hit by Russian bombardment in the immediate aftermath of the invasion. New Zealand has won the Women's Rugby World Cup for a 6th time after a dramatic victory over England at Auckland's Eden Park. The Red Roses held the lead for much of the game until New Zealand scored a late try with 9 minutes to go, putting them ahead by just 3 points. Our sports correspondent Joe Curry was watching.
It's an all-black night in Auckland.
Battered and bruised, the unbeatables beaten. For some of these players, the 2 familiar tears of World Cup heartache. Fans were turning up to see the world number 1's England, unbeaten in over 30 games, face a team who broke their hearts 5 years ago.
We landed yesterday and the final is today and we fly home tomorrow. being held on the other side of the world means not many England fans have been able to make the trip across. It could feel like they're not just taking on 15 players on the pitch, but an entire stadium.
And a daunting one at that. Not that it stopped them raising their voices. The volume and intimidation then upped by their opposition. If England had nerves, they didn't show. A dream start, which continued as England quickly built up a healthy lead before a moment which would change the game.
Oh my goodness.
Lydia Thompson's reckless tackle, and she was shown a red card. The Black Ferns made use of their extra player almost immediately, but England regathered and dotted down twice. There was a change of ends, but no change of pace. New Zealand were straight out of the blocks to hit England twice. England looked to their driving maul, and once again it proved unstoppable. Amy Cockayne with a hat-trick of tries as the lead changed hands once again. But the Black Ferns still had magic up their sleeve, a perfect kick and some quick thinking as they set up a nail-biting finish. England desperately tried to find a spark that would keep their World Cup hopes alive, but as the final whistle went, those hopes were over.
It's really tough, you know, it hurts. We've spoken in the past about how sport's pretty cruel and it doesn't always go the way you want, and it's won on lost and fine margins, and that's certainly what happened this evening.
England came to New Zealand as heavy favourites and looking for redemption, but they leave with only questions about how this trophy got away from them once again. Jo Curry, BBC News, Auckland.
There's more on BBC One at tea time, 5:10. Until then, from all of us on the Lunchtime team, enjoy your afternoon.